welcome to my April YouTube video. The first 2 weeks of April felt strangely chaotic, so on one of the nicer days, as we thought, we went to Genesis house. So Genesis is a Korean luxury car brand, but on the second floor they have a restaurant. And we went there to try Korean tea and to eat small desserts. Tea was really flavorful. We got persimmon leaf, my favorite fruit, and some of their houseplants that had ginger and beets in it. It was really tasty, and desserts were really small but very light and not overpowering, so not too many calories, but they were really nice addition to very flavorful tea. On the basement level, they have art exhibitions that they rotate every week. So overall, it's a really nice experience, and I recommend you to check Genesis House. So that day was really freezing, and at first we wanted to go and check few stores, but I got really hungry, and when I'm hungry, everyone has 10 seconds to throw something at me. So my friend took me to one of her favorite Italian places that was again really tasty. A few days later, I had a flight to Florida for a birthday. I went for 4 days thinking it would be relaxing. Instead, it went by so fast that I somehow came back even more tired. But one thing I immediately noticed was water. There was a shower filter in the bathroom, and by the time I came back, my skin was still clean and my hair felt really soft. I think people really underestimate how much water quality affects your skin and hair. You can buy every shampoo, mask, and serum, whatever you want, but if the water is too harsh, it's working against you the whole time. That trip also made me realize something else. When you build a routine and you stay consistent with it for long enough, eventually it stops feeling optional. Even while traveling, exhausted, out of schedule, and missing equipment, I still felt like I need to exercise. Not in a dramatic motivation way, more like how brushing your teeth isn't a debate, you just do it. And I think that's when habits become real, when they stop depending on your mood. The second I got to New York, the first thing I did is I started unpacking new shoes that I ordered, but then my dog came and started demanding attention, so I needed to play with her for a few minutes before I could proceed. Anyways, I saw these shoes on Instagram for so long, and they've been in my cart for so long that I just ended up ordering them. And then when I opened the box, I saw a hair clip and I was like, oh my god, do they know I'm a hair influencer? But that was just a second of me being delusional. Anyways, I really wanted something really nice and light colored for the summer, because during the summer I wear a lot of white. I think those are perfect. And I have just the beautiful skirt that will match these shoes and the bag. And then I added striped shirt, and voila, I just like that on Monday for work. On Sunday though, I was invited unexpectedly to a concert, and it was so fun, and it was very nostalgic. I really enjoyed it. So thank you, Mikola, for inviting me. Now on to everyone's favorite part. So I will show in details how I blow dry and style my hair and what I use, because I get a lot of questions about it on Instagram lately, and I will briefly talk about new finding. So before drying, I use few different leave-ins. While it sounds excessive, they do different things, okay? First, I use California Naturals. This one more about softness and conditioning and keeping my hair moisturized and easier to manage. The second one I use is Kerastase Premier Filler Serum. This one does completely different thing. So it has heat protection ingredient in it. I do not use a separate designated product for that, so I wanted to still add moisturization but also heat protection. So it also makes my hair feel thicker, as if it smoothes out and fills every cuticle. So I really like it. For the newest one, the third one that I used for the past 2.5 weeks was styling cream from Gisou. I mainly wanted to test it because it smells really good, but it actually surprised me. Usually protein heavy products do not work that well for my hair, but this one somehow fits into the routine really nicely. It doesn't weigh the hair down, it doesn't feel sticky, and it layers well with everything else. So right now I kind of switch between that and my usual raw serum. And using multiple leave-ins isn't about piling random products on. For me, it's about building layers of moisture and protection. That way, throughout the day, with friction from clothing, whether touching your hair, brushing, or like playing with your hair, I don't know, it still feels soft by the end of it. Healthy hair usually isn't about one miracle product, it's about reducing damage consistently. Less dryness, less breakage, and less split ends over time. And because I style my hair often, and by often I mean daily, I think this is one of the reasons why it's still so healthy. And I also recommend to use a little bit of oil before blow drying. And no, it's not about frying the hair. Somehow people hear oil and think about kitchen oil and cooking. Hair oils are usually silicone based and they behave completely differently. They help with slip, shine, smoothing, and creating protective layer, and they help with heat protection. So I use a little bit while hair is still damp, and then later after styling, I use a bit more. And I know you guys gonna ask it, no, you cannot use coconut oil, no, you cannot use your natural blend oil. You need to use a hair oil where the main ingredient is dimethicone. This is the silicone that will help to protect your hair. The blow dryer that I use called Wool Vanquish, and I like it because even on the highest heat setting, it doesn't burn my hair or skin. I blow dry my hair from top to bottom because it helps to smooth and close the cuticle, which is what gives that shiny straight finish even without using any straightener. I also never brush my hair when it's soaking wet, and wet hair is much more fragile because the strands swell and they stretch more easily, which makes them more prone to breakage, split ends, and weakening over time. I usually wait until my hair is around 70 to 80% dry before brushing. By then, hair is stronger, easier to detangle, and much less vulnerable to damage. When I start brushing, I'm very gentle. I never yank through tangles. If I feel resistance, I stop, carefully work through the knot, and then continue. Being patient with your hair makes a huge difference. You will have less breakage, smoother strands, and healthier length overall. It's also really important to fully dry your hair before you start styling. For me, I check the baby hairs at the top of my head. They usually stick out more when I haven't finished blow drying completely. Any leftover moisture in the hair can create frizz, uneven texture, and will make styling harder, and you will not get as shiny straight hair as you want to. If you go in with hot tool while the hair even a little bit damp, it can cause even more damage over time because you're applying heat to moisture that is trapped inside the strand. So I always make sure that my hair is fully dry before I go in with styling. This clip right here is a prime example of why I'm blow drying top to bottom and why I'm blow drying fully. You see that my hair is already really shiny. If I want to, I can go out like this, but I usually prefer to style it a little bit. I get a lot of accusations on Instagram or TikTok when people say, oh, you have straight hair because you straighten it. This is not fully true. You can see here that it's really shiny just after blow drying. I do like to curl my ends a little bit, and I think straightener kind of seals that shine even more, giving me that glass hair effect. And now onto the styling part. I use pretty simple straightener. I got it for $25 or $30 from Marshall's many years ago, but you still can find it. It has ceramic plates, rounded edges, and you can control the temperature, and I think that's perfect. If you can find any other brand with the same features, you don't need to spend much on a nice luxurious straightener. Anyways, I usually divide my hair into 3 sections to make everything easier and more even. I start with the bottom section and split it into 2 parts, and then I go strand by strand, focusing mostly on the ends. I run straightener quickly through the main length of my hair, usually only 1 pass because I don't like unnecessary heat. And when I get closer to the end, I slow down a little bit and twist the straightener into the soft C shape to create that bend. That what gives the hair movement instead of like looking stiff or overly straight. From my experience, it doesn't really matter what side you're gonna curl your hair, inside or outside, so just like do it how your hand and wrist feels comfortable. With longer hair, it doesn't really matter because hair moves and twists, so it's never gonna be like that perfect outside curl or just inside. I'm gonna speed up through this section. I repeat that process strand by strand through the whole lower section. Sometimes I might go with 2 more passes on the top of my hair because I have those baby hairs and they stick out a little bit, so I just make sure that everything is nice and smooth. And once I'm done, I bring everything behind my back and do 2 to 3 quick smoothing passes on the back of my head just to blend everything together so there's no visible parting or separation and everything looks polished. And then I move to top section. I naturally wear a middle part, so I divide that section into 2 sides and repeat the same process, strand by strand, smoothing the length and softly curling the ends. When I finish, I brush everything back once more and do a few final passes in the back to make sure everything flows together seamlessly. That final step really helps the hair look smooth, shiny, and kinda expensive. To finish, I use just a tiny amount of hair oil on the ends and any areas that need extra smoothness. A little goes a long way. If you feel that you didn't use enough, you can slowly layer a little more. I focus mostly on the mid-lengths and ends to add shine, seal in the smoothness, and calm any leftover frizz. It's the final step that makes everything look polished and glossy and finished. My hair is naturally straight, but I still style it almost every day. And I know that sounds unnecessary, but for me it's less about changing the texture and more about sealing everything in place. If I don't style it, even a little humidity during rainy days or summer can make it feel rougher or slightly puffy, almost like the surface of the strand opens back up again. But when I blow dry and smooth it properly, it stays polished longer, so it feels less like styling and more like setting the hair. And that's pretty much everything for this video. Thank you so much for spending time with me and watching until the end. I really appreciate it, especially while I'm still figuring out this whole YouTube thing. I'll have more videos coming soon and I'm excited to keep sharing more here. Thank you again and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.